Hey guys, Professor Bill, Comic Book University. I just finished reading Star Trek Boldly Go, issue number one. Now, I like Star Trek, I do. The original series was pretty cool. Obviously, the Next Generation was fantastic, and I mean, it's one of those kind of series that brings men and women together to really enjoy the series itself. I didn't get into Deep Space Nine very much. I did like the concept. I just didn't like the beleaguering stories. Yeah, they didn't really appeal to me after a while. But the characters and some of the concepts were fantastic. It's just a shame the way that it went. Voyager, my wife's favorite, also pretty much my favorite too. Whatever, judge me on your own time. But and of course, I don't think too much of anybody really knows anybody who likes Enterprise, the TV show. What a fail of a show. Anyway, there's a new one coming out. And then, of course, there are the movies. And the latest three movies, you can say that the first two, the ones that J.J. Abrams did especially, but these movies, in and of themselves, really brought fans back. And that's what we're looking at here. The three movies are over, and a couple months after the most recent movie, Star Trek Beyond, which I haven't seen yet. Some people say you're not missing much. I'll say I'm missing enough that I don't fully understand what's going on in the comics here. But there's not really that much that you have to go on. Apparently, the Enterprise was destroyed. It's about time. All the times it got smashed up. Jeez. So, Captain Kirk now has a new command, and Bones is hanging out with him. He took a demotion just simply so that he could hang out with Kirk. They're best friends. What are you going to do? And Spock is off on New Vulcan, and he took Uhura with him. So they're kind of in their. I don't know if they're married yet or not, or just seeing each other or whatever. But they're all doing their thing, and those are the four main characters really. And there are a couple other characters floating around. Sulu is actually in charge of a ship called, actually he's second in command of a ship called Concorde. We know eventually he'll get his own ship when we see Generation and things, Next Generation and the like. But Kirk is in charge of this ship. Commander Valis is his second in command. She is a Romulan. Now I'm going to get right into the middle of the comic because there's a very great scene in here that I love. And as much as I love Star Wars over Star Trek, you always have to be able to recognize how social the Star Trek is over Star Wars. You got just a whole bunch of people living in close quarters out there who are always going to be fighting each other and whatever. Everybody hates everybody. And then the Jedi come in and wipe them all out with the Sith. But here, you just have a whole bunch of people who have to learn how to work together, or they go to war with each other. And having a Romulan as the first officer is pretty cool. It's pretty cool because Bones actually asks Kirk, do you think that you could trust her? I mean, she's a Romulan. And a response given to him is, okay, first off, she grew up in Seattle. And she's lived there, most of her life, and she joined Starfleet. I mean, for crying out loud, she's as much a human as any one of us. Who cares where, her family is from? And that's great, social discourse, because that's one of those kind of things that can apply to anyone. And yeah, unfortunately, that's one of the things you're not really going to get from Star Wars. I like what happened here, and it was kind of predictable what was going to happen at the end of the comic. I guessed it. I, of course, wasn't sure, but I guessed it. And turns out I was right. Basically, it's just all these guys getting used to their different duty stations, their different lives, and they're slowly being brought together. What happens is that Kirk is out on the USS Endeavour, which reminds me of, good luck in all your future endeavors. So Kirk is in charge of the Endeavour, and they're out doing some exploratory stuff. And the Concorde, which is the ship that Sulu is on, and Captain Terrell is the captain of that particular ship. Well, something comes along, and they're right on the cusp, right into the Delta Quadrant, the Concorde, on a 6-month mission. and something comes along and apparently takes the saucer of the Concorde and rips it right off the rest of the ship and then leaves. And there are some survivors out there, and there's a distress call. They'd gotten some kind of a signal that came in. The ship came in really fast. They put up the shields. It didn't seem to matter. They got some kind of a call in that they couldn't understand, and they couldn't translate it right away until the very end when it was too late. So Commander Vallis, she's second in charge of the Endeavor, calls Kirk up, says, Captain, my captain. Not really. But she says, listen, you really need to get up here. He goes up, sees what's going on. She explains all this stuff, and she knows that Sulu is, his friend, and they both know that Sulu's aboard the Concorde. So they make haste to get out there. They're also trying to understand what this code is that came in. So he says, I'm not sure. Nobody on the ship can figure it out, but I do know someone who can. And of course, that would be Commander Uhura. Is she a commander? I don't think she's a commander. Lieutenant? Lieutenant Uhura. Anyway, she's back on New Vulcan, and she starts translating this, and she says, oh my God, Captain, the words are, and then just as Captain Kirk gets there and finds a whole bunch of people, rescues them, including Sulu, Sulu says, Captain, the last thing they said was, and at the same time they both wind up explaining, resistance is futile. Yeah, I kind of knew this was going to happen. You could tell, but it doesn't make me any less excited because, we've never seen these guys go against the Borg. And I always said to myself, I know it doesn't fit with the time, even all those years later, when Q first introduced Captain Picard, to the, whatever, he's old man Professor X now, but when we first introduced him to the Borg and let him know, you're not ready for this, but you think that you are, so here you go, have at thee. And it really only made Starfleet stronger. I mean, we had Locutus, which was pretty rough for him, but pretty rough for Captain Sisko too, apparently. Captain, Commander, anyway. So they have, some really cool stuff going on there. But man, since you've got an alternate timeline now and people investigating the Delta Quadrant, I was literally thinking to myself, there's no way. There's no way. And sure enough, yeah. So that means that in this series, we're going to see the Borg versus the original Star Trek crew. Reduxed. Repackaged. Guys, I am really looking forward to issue 2 of this. Can't wait. I kind of wish this was a weekly series at this point. Anyways, Professor Bill, Comic Book University, class dismissed.